Hello, my name is Jeff, and welcome to part 2 of building a C-Class DTM street car, which obviously is not going to be the ever-popular Evo 2, but instead based on the W202 DTM car, which won in 1994 and 1995. And it won't be an exact replica per se, but it's more so inspired by or similar to the actual race car, which is what we'll be applying to this car here. And if you missed the last episode, that was actually me purchasing the body kit. So I bought the body kit first to build this crazy car, and obviously you need the car in order to build a car, and so we skipped some steps and now we're working backwards. But now we have a car, which means we can continue to move forward with the build process and get that much closer to seeing this thing built and on the road, which is incredibly exciting. We'll be taking it step by step, and I'll be sharing the entire journey with you guys. So if you could leave me a thumbs up, that would really help with motivation and getting things moving, and of course get subscribed so you don't miss out on future videos with this build series. Now with that, let's get into the car itself. Allow me to introduce you to my new to me 1999 Mercedes-Benz C43 AMG. And there's a couple different reasons why we went for this particular car. If you're familiar with this generation, the W202 was actually the first ever C-Class from Mercedes-Benz, and it actually replaced the 190E, which is what the Evo 2 came from. This was the first official C-Class, and it continued to race in DTM. They built all sorts of regular versions, which you can find for sale everywhere, from the C230 to the C280. And it would have been easy and very cheap to just use one of those cars. In fact, there are some other builds that you can find on the internet that did do that. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to have more performance, and I wanted to have it from the get-go because it was going to save me some money in terms of not having to do some totally custom engine setup with a standalone ECU, etc. under the hood. So I wanted to start with something that was going to be a little bit faster from the get-go, which we can then put money into later if we decide that's necessary. And now there's a couple different options there, mostly the AMG models, which you have the C36, C43, this car, and the C55 AMG. They're all actually really rare cars. The C43 AMG in particular, only 1,425 of these cars made their way to the US, and then there's only something like 4,200 cars for the entire world. Now at first, that does seem like a shame to cut up a car like this, but I'm happy to say that this car, which is complete with an engine swap and around 170,000 miles on the chassis, is far from original. So there's nothing really minty on this car, and I'm sure that we'll be able to sell some of the important components to people that want them for either their regular C-Classes or other AMG models, so they can better preserve those. But this car is far from stock, so if you're going to cut up a car, I think this is not one that will really be missed. But it is perfect for the body kit that we're going to be installing, as there's no accidents on this car. It's been taken care of by enthusiasts, so it has a properly done engine swap, but still has air conditioning, and I'll get to more of that engine swap particulars in a sec. But this is really the perfect car. It's very rare, so it took a while to find this, but having that V8 subframe is pretty important for what we're going to be building. I wasn't even going to try to replicate the Racecar's V6, but this should be more than enough power for what we're going to be doing. But with that, let's start taking a closer look. So next, let's go ahead and talk about what's under the hood of our C43 AMG. Now this is far from the factory engine plant, as this one has been swapped with a later M113 from a 55 AMG. So we have significantly more power, and now a 5.4 liter V8. From the factory, the C43 AMG would have come with a 4.3 liter V8, good for around 302 horsepower, 302 pound-feet of torque, which is plenty fast for 1999. However, this one's been swapped and is now significantly faster. The C43 AMG would have been one of the fastest cars at the time, 0 to 60 in around 5.5, 5.8 seconds, something like that. And so this should be even faster. In fact, in some of the times that I put my foot on it, the traction control light comes on telling me that the rear tires are suddenly losing traction. So that is a great sign. In fact, I think one of the things we have to do is throw this bad boy on a dyno so we can see just how much power it's actually making, especially to the rear wheel, and just make sure it's running healthy. The other upside of having an engine like this is the fact that these are known for handling boost pretty well, and there should be a fair amount of upgrades for these, as they built quite a few M113s. It's a fairly researched engine, and it's actually in the same family as the original 4.3 that came out of this, which is perhaps why the swaps are so common in these cars. You can find a ton of these C43 AMGs which have been swapped with the M113 5.4 liter V8, so that is great news. And this same family of V8 is also what's technically in the Mercedes Mercedes McLaren SLR with the supercharged version of the 5.4-liter V8. So it comes from a very prestigious family of performance V8s, and that is lovely to hear. We just happen to have more horsepower now in our AMG. And this car from the factory came with a 5-speed automatic transmission, which is similar to what would have been used in even the 55 AMGs of the newer cars. So all of that really mates up pretty easily. So that's a great thing to see here, and of course sends power to the rear wheels. So properly quick little car this is, especially with this engine swap. So if you guys want to see it on the dyno, I think that's something that we have to make happen just out of curiosity. And then from there, we can kind of start to plan what maybe potential future engine upgrades we have. The thing with those engine upgrades though is when you take a look at the engine bay itself, there's not a whole lot of room in here. The engine itself essentially goes right up to the radiator fan assembly. You don't have a whole lot of room for really anything. Even a supercharger would probably require some hood modifications in order to even make that fit. So we'll have to think about what that is. Maybe that means just naturally aspirated engine modifications, things like camshafts, injectors, etc., whatever the case is. We'll have to talk to some people that know more about these AMG motors, and then we can kind of do some problem solving from there. But the great part is as a street car goes, this motor is awesome. I love it. You have plenty of power. And the other crazy part is as I've been driving this thing, I've been getting over 20 miles per gallon with a 5.4-liter V8 under the hood, because the car as a whole is relatively lightweight and very, very aerodynamic. This car has a ton of very sleek engineering to it that makes it easy to drive as a commuter, which is insane. Now, once we get the wide body on it, including the aero kit, that's going to add some drag, and so we're definitely going to ruin some of our fuel economy. But hey, at least it's going to be cool because street race car, right? So that's a pretty fascinating thing to look at underneath. Of course, let me know if you guys have any tips on what you think we can do with this, but we're pretty limited in our overall space. But hey, as a street car, we still have air conditioning. It's really easy to use and drive, and so there's tons to enjoy here under the hood. Okay, so currently the car is a little too quiet for my liking. We'll have to change that anyways because the current factory exhaust is not going to work with the DTM kit that we're going to be installing. However, I do want to take you through the exterior and the interior just so you can see the rest of the car and what it is we're working with. First of all, I love how sleek these cars are. It has such a cool look to it, sort of slab-sided, looks like a German muscle car, which it really is at this point with the big old V8 under the hood, which maybe we'll upgrade, we'll see. But I also want to show you that this car in particular is just really not that in great of shape. A lot of the panels are damaged. You can see all sorts of scuffing, which we're going to have to repaint and rework anyways for the body kit, which is why I thought this was a really, really good donor car. However, the AMG body kit on this car, we won't need, but I don't want to throw that away as that's probably a pretty rare component. And the only ones that exist these days are probably Duraflex parts. And so I definitely want to make sure that we can at least sell that to somebody who's going to want to either add it to their C-Class or maybe replace parts on their C43 AMG, whatever the case is. So we want to make sure we do the responsible thing with all of that. The model blocks, however, super cool wheels, always in style for Mercedes, and even some of the cool other AMG branded parts like the exhaust tips themselves. So very cool. You can see there's all sorts of paint wear and paint fade on the exterior as well, in addition to the weird scuffs. But it makes sense, this car being as low and aerodynamic as it is, to get over 20 miles per gallon as a V8, which is crazy, and the iconic single wiper. Now with that, let me show you the interior. We have pseudo carbon fiber wrap. I forgot about that. Fake carbon fiber wrap on the exterior. But next, moving on to the interior, we have a leather AMG interior. Now, this has some modifications done to it. Originally, from the factory, I believe it would have been this silver and black, as you can see there in the back. But I believe the previous owner was going through the process of trying to convert the entire thing to black. And so I have some extra seats for the back actually that don't seem quite right to me, but maybe we'll see what we do. I was planning on reupholstering a lot of this later anyways, but who knows how quickly that'll happen. We'll probably leave it mostly stock inside for a while. Now this car has 170,000 miles on the chassis. The motor has, I think, around 70,000 miles. And then under here, AMG gauge cluster. This is aftermarket, obviously, with the carbon fiber AMG wheel, but the airbag in the center is all factory, including the AMG branding. Over here, 5-speed shifter for the automatic, power windows, cool Falterbach AMG shifter, and then of course we also have all the other luxuries. Radio's been swapped out, heated seats, traction, and even a button right here which actually drops the rear headrests so you can see better. These little knobs here also adjust your seat bolstering, which is kind of a cool feature. So a lot of really cool luxuries in these cars for the time. They were pretty expensive, obviously, very rare cars, but it's an incredibly cool project that I will absolutely drive as a street car. There's lots of modifications that we're going to be doing here. I'm also curious to know what you guys think we should do with this car. It's really kind of a blank slate. I'm taking it day by day, figuring out what exactly we're going to be doing with this car. And so I think that's pretty important as far as what all we do. Obviously, we're gonna have to lower it significantly. You can see here there's a lot of room, and the race car fenders actually go up to like the roof line. So that's a good, I don't know, 6 to 8 inches that the car has to be lowered. That's quite a lot. So lots of changes, definitely a big brake kit, maybe some engine upgrades, interior modifications, etc. Whatever the case is, I want to know what you guys think that we should actually end up doing with this car. It's really a blank slate, but now let's take it for a drive. Start with a quick pull. Oh. Good Lord. All right, this is very, very fast. So obviously it has that M113 V8 swap under the hood, which is a pretty big deal for the performance standards. And I love that it's also kind of a regular occurrence for these cars. This one's not even the first one I've seen. You can find a lot of them on online auctions and stuff. See, the other thing is it sounds so good here on the interior of the car. So I think we really need to liven it up a bit. So I want to do something exciting for the car. We got to make sure it's proper though and doesn't drone on the freeway. Like I said, I plan on using this. I want to drive it and take it places once it's all completed. And so everything has to be street car approved. It's really easy for scope creep to kick in and these projects get out of hand and then they turn into garage queens that really don't get driven as often as they should have. And I don't want that to be the case for this car. I want to be able to take it everywhere. So that'll be the plan, is to make it as reliable as possible, but still very street car friendly. Sorry for the hat hair. But man, driving this car is great. It feels awesome. It's obviously got some characteristics that aren't as desirable. You'll probably hear people, if you're familiar with the Mercedes stuff, talking about how they're not huge fans of the 5-speed characteristics, especially between first and second gear. But once you get moving, it moves pretty good. It just can be a little bit clunky at those lower speeds, kind of getting it up and going, let's say. The suspension, I think it's pretty good, all things considered. We're probably going to throw this thing on coilovers, and so that's probably really going to stiff it up quite a bit, but it needs it, especially for being able to set the ride height up correctly for the body kit. The steering is a little bit vague, but it's really not that bad. It's a little bit overboosted, I'd say. But really, it's a fun car. I mean, this is my second Mercedes. My first one was an R129 SL, and I loved that car. That car was awesome. It had, the only downside I would say to Mercedes is when things go wrong, they can be very, very expensive. And that car had some issues with the emission system, the air pump, etc. And I was spending a lot of time working on that. That was just such a huge pain. But other than that, the car was a lot of fun. And ironically, it was actually the same color, brilliant silver metallic. So I think we've kind of got a theme there. Maybe that'll be what we end up painting the car, but we can also do graphics over that to make it even more exciting. So who knows? Like I said, kind of a blank slate thing in terms of the overall experience with this car and what we can actually do with it. So I'm really looking forward to the journey. It's also incredibly quiet on the inside. It'll be interesting to see with the body kit, because obviously that adds drag. Not only might be worse in our fuel economy, not that big of a deal for a fun car, but then it'll be interesting to see if that adds noise. Oh, there goes the traction light. Oh my Lord. See, this is the most important part. It puts a smile on my face. I just think if it had a little bit more actual exhaust noise, that would really liven up the car a bit. It's already gotten thumbs up, even in its current state. You saw the exterior. It's not in great condition. It's a good car. It's been enthusiast kept, and so the maintenance items have actually been kept up on, which is great. It's just not a minty car per se, but I do think it's the perfect donor car for this DTM build that we're getting into. So I'm just excited to have the car, because now that means we can take the next steps of actually fitting the kit and starting to source parts, modifications, brakes, etc. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you think we should do for this cool DTM project? Let me know in the comments down below. With that, that's also the end of the video. If you enjoyed it and could leave me a thumbs up, that would help me out a lot in the channel. And of course, don't forget to get subscribed so you don't miss out on future content like this. If you want to follow with the build, that's the best way to do so. And of course, check out the stuff we're featuring on social media as well, not just YouTube or vice versa. So with that, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one.